Learn to force yourself to achieve any goal. You know that feeling? The one that creeps in right after you've promised yourself this time will be different. You set alarms, make plans, write goals. You picture the version of you who finally makes it happen. But when it's time to act, something inside you hesitates. Suddenly, scrolling feels easier than starting. Comfort feels safer than progress. You tell yourself you'll begin tomorrow, but tomorrow turns into next week, and next week becomes another forgotten dream. You don't lack ambition, you lack control over the moment your mind says, not now. The truth is, you don't need more motivation. You need the power to force yourself to do what needs to be done, especially when every part of you wants to stop. Because discipline isn't born from excitement. It's born from the quiet decision to move anyway. It's what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Once you learn to push past resistance, to act before your excuses arrive, you become unstoppable. Because in the end, every goal you've ever wanted is waiting on the other side of one thing: your ability to move when you don't feel like it. Let's begin. Number 1, the battle between feeling and action. Most people lose the battle for their dreams long before they even begin. Not because they're weak, not because they're lazy, but because they've been taught to wait for the right feeling. You tell yourself you'll start when you're motivated, when you're inspired, when life finally feels right. But motivation is fragile. It's the spark that ignites at the beginning, not the fire that keeps you warm through the storm. The truth is, motivation is the first thing to vanish the moment things get hard. One bad day, one rejection, one distraction, and it's gone. You tell yourself you'll come back tomorrow, but tomorrow never brings the same fire. Because feelings are fickle, they change with weather, sleep, and circumstance. And if you build your discipline on emotion, you'll always crumble when emotion fades. This is where the real war begins, the battle between feeling and action. Your feelings whisper comfort, safety, and delay. They tell you to take a break, to rest a little longer, to do it later. But your goals, your purpose, your dreams, they demand sacrifice, they demand discomfort, they demand movement now. Every morning that battle begins again. The part of you that wants ease versus the part of you that wants greatness. And too often people surrender to the easy path because it feels right in the moment, forgetting that moments don't define destiny, choices do. You see, success isn't emotional, it's mechanical, it's repetition. It's doing the thing you said you'd do, long after the mood you set it in has faded. Winners don't act because they feel like it. They act until they feel like it. They understand that motion creates emotion. They know that the simple act of showing up again and again reshapes who they are from the inside out. It's not about forcing yourself once. It's about learning the language of consistency, the quiet, unglamorous grind of showing up, even when no one is watching. The truth is, you will never feel ready. You will never wake up one morning with perfect energy, perfect clarity, and perfect timing. Readiness is a myth. Waiting for it is how dreams rot. The moment you understand this, everything changes, because you stop negotiating with your feelings and start commanding your actions. That's how winners are built, not from endless motivation, but from daily resistance to the easy path. The ones who achieve what others only dream about are those who've mastered one skill, the ability to move forward when every part of them says stop. You'll never feel like it. And that's exactly why you must move when you don't want to, because that's the moment your future is being decided. Number 2, the psychology of forcing yourself. Your brain is a powerful machine, but it was never designed to make you successful. It was designed to keep you safe. That's why every time you try to change your life, to push beyond your comfort zone, that little voice inside you begins its argument. It tells you you're tired, that you deserve a break, that tomorrow will be better. It sounds rational. It feels protective, but in reality, it's your mind defending your comfort zone, not your potential. The brain's primary job is survival, and anything unfamiliar feels like danger, even if it's the very thing that would set you free. So it becomes your greatest opponent in the battle for growth. It resists change, not because it's weak, but because it's wired to protect the familiar. And that's why you can know what to do, want to do it, and still not move. Your mind isn't your enemy. It's just stuck in an outdated program that prioritizes comfort over progress. Imagine your mind as a skilled lawyer for your limitations. It argues for your excuses with perfect logic. It will remind you of every past failure, every moment you gave up, every reason you shouldn't try again. It'll whisper, "You've done enough for today. You're not ready yet. It's not the right time." And if you listen long enough, those whispers start sounding like truth. But the secret is this: the moment you act in spite of that voice, you begin to rewire your brain. Every time you override hesitation, you're teaching your mind a new rule. I'm in charge now. You stop obeying your feelings and start commanding your focus. This is where real transformation begins. Not in motivation, but in mental conditioning. Because when you force yourself to act, when you don't feel like it, you're building psychological muscle. You're reshaping your identity from "I want to" into "I will." You're proving to yourself over and over that you can lead your emotions instead of being led by them. And that shift changes everything. The brain learns by repetition, so the more you act despite discomfort, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, the things that once scared you start feeling normal. The resistance weakens. What once required willpower turns into instinct. The truth is, success has very little to do with how you feel. Feelings are weather, they change, they fluctuate, they lie. Decisions are anchors. They hold steady when everything else drifts. Every person you admire has mastered this one truth. They don't wait to feel like it. They move first and let the feeling catch up later. Because growth doesn't happen inside comfort. It happens every time you step beyond it. Every time you silence the lawyer in your head and take action anyway, you are not just building discipline. You are programming your mind to obey your goals, not your emotions. Success isn't about how you feel. It's about what you decide to do, in spite of how you feel. Number 3, discipline over motivation. Motivation is a beautiful spark. It's the rush you feel when you set a new goal. The excitement that fills you when you imagine success. But sparks don't last. They burn bright and fade fast. Discipline, on the other hand, is the quiet flame that never goes out. Motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going when the feeling is gone. Everyone loves the idea of progress, when it's exciting, when it feels good, when energy is high. But real growth begins the moment the excitement disappears and you choose to move anyway. That's where the separation happens. Between those who dream and those who do. Because anyone can act when it's easy. Few can keep moving when it's hard. Think about the athlete who wakes up before dawn. The world is asleep. The bed is warm. The body is tired. Motivation would tell him to rest. But discipline gets him up, not because it's fun, but because he remembers the promise he made to himself, that he would show up, no matter how he felt. Every repetition, every early morning, every moment he could have said later, but didn't. That's where his strength was built. The crowd only sees the performance. They don't see the lonely mornings, the quiet battles, the small acts of self-control that created greatness. Or think of the student who stays up studying when no one's watching. No applause, no validation, just a determination to keep a promise. That's discipline. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's not about forcing yourself into misery. It's about respect, self-respect. It's about proving that your word means something, even when no one is there to see it. Every time you follow through, you tell yourself, "I can trust me." That trust becomes confidence. That confidence becomes power. Discipline is how you teach your soul that you are reliable, that you don't need conditions to be consistent. Because discipline isn't emotional, it's foundational. It doesn't ask if you're in the mood, it asks if you're committed. It doesn't chase inspiration, it creates momentum. And here's the truth, you'll never always be motivated, but you can always be disciplined. Motivation depends on how you feel. Discipline depends on who you decide to be. And the day you choose discipline, your life changes. Because every small act of discipline builds evidence that you are capable of more. Every time you resist the easy path, you strengthen the muscle that makes success inevitable. You stop being controlled by moods and start being guided by mission. And that's when real confidence begins to grow. Not from words, not from hype, but from the quiet moments when you do what you said you would do. Because when you keep the promise you made to yourself, even in silence, that's where confidence is born. Number 4, how to build the skill of forcing yourself. Learning to force yourself isn't about being harsh. It's about being honest. It's about realizing that your mind will always choose comfort first, and you have to choose growth anyway. The ability to force yourself isn't natural. It's trained like a muscle. You build it one decision at a time. You start small. You force yourself to sit, to start, to show up. That's it. You don't wait for motivation. You create momentum. Because the truth is, starting is the hardest part. The moment you begin, everything changes. Action kills doubt. Action silences hesitation. You don't need to climb the whole mountain. You just need to take the first step. When you feel resistance, don't overthink it. Don't negotiate with your feelings. Just count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move. That small countdown bypasses hesitation, cuts through the noise of excuses, and pushes you into motion before your mind has time to argue. It's simple, but powerful. Because once you move, the mind follows. Momentum takes over. Think of it like pushing a heavy door. At first it barely budges, your muscles strain, and every part of you wants to quit. But once it starts to open, the resistance fades. Movement becomes easier. Energy builds. That's how momentum feels. Slow at first, unstoppable later. You see, forcing yourself isn't about pressure, it's about power. Every time you do something you didn't feel like doing, you're reclaiming control from the part of your brain that wants to keep you safe, small, and stagnant. You're teaching your mind a new rule. We move even when it's hard. You're proving that discipline can exist, even in discomfort. And over time, that becomes who you are. You stop needing to psych yourself up. You just move. You just act. You just follow through. Because it's what you do now. That's how you turn forcing yourself into second nature. Through repetition, through consistency, through honoring the decision, not the emotion. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. You'll want to quit. You'll want to delay. But every time you push through that moment, every time you silence that whisper of later, you win. You grow stronger. You become more certain. And slowly your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries to be disciplined, and you start seeing yourself as someone who is disciplined. Someone who moves, no matter what. That's the real secret. It's not about doing the impossible. It's about doing the uncomfortable until it becomes easy. Every time you act, the resistance loses power. Every time you push through, hesitation weakens. And one day you'll realize something incredible. The hardest part was never the work itself. It was fighting your own hesitation. Once you learn to move before your mind resists, once you make action your default, life stops feeling like a struggle. It starts feeling like flow, because when you master the skill of forcing yourself, you're no longer controlled by how you feel. You're guided by what you've decided. And that right there is freedom. Number 5. What happens when you stop negotiating with yourself? The moment you stop arguing with your excuses, everything changes. It's like a switch flips inside of you. The noise quiets, the hesitation fades, and suddenly you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Control. You realize that every negotiation you had with yourself, every "I'll do it later," every "I'm too tired," every "just 5 more minutes" was a thief in disguise. It stole your time, your confidence, and your dreams, one small moment at a time. But when you finally stop debating your own decisions, when you act without discussion, you free yourself from that endless mental tug-of-war. The same person who used to procrastinate begins to move with clarity. The same one who doubted starts to decide. You stop living in hesitation, and you start living in momentum. There's a strange peace that comes when you no longer give your excuses a seat at the table. You don't wake up wondering if you'll do what you said you would. You just do it. No drama, no delay. And with that comes a deep, quiet pride. You begin to trust yourself again. Every small action becomes a statement. I mean what I say. That's how self-respect is built. Not through motivation or perfection, but through consistency. Through showing up even when no one sees you. Even when no one claps. Even when it's just you and your willpower in the silence of your room. Because every time you do what you said you would, you take a brick and rebuild the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. Soon, The guilt that used to weigh you down starts to disappear. You stop feeling behind. Stop feeling like you're chasing your potential. You start to feel aligned, calm but powerful, quiet but certain. Progress becomes your peace. You begin to see results, not because things suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger. You stopped wasting energy convincing yourself to move, and started using that energy to actually move. That's the transformation. You go from being your own obstacle to being your greatest ally, from a mind full of resistance to a heart full of resolve. And that's when life begins to feel different. You no longer ask for permission from your emotions. You no longer wait for motivation to appear. You act because it's who you are now. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start saying, "Watch me." Number 6, the truth about willpower. Most people think willpower is something you either have or you don't, that it's this invisible fuel some people are blessed with and others are not. But the truth is, willpower isn't endless, and it isn't a gift. It's a muscle. It's strengthened, stretched, and shaped through habit. Every time you make yourself do something difficult, you're not just finishing a task. You're training your mind to obey your higher self. Every act of discipline is a deposit into your willpower bank. You may start with almost nothing, but every no to comfort and every yes to consistency adds another layer of strength. It doesn't grow by inspiration. It grows by repetition. You don't wait for the gym to make you strong. You get strong by showing up weak. The same law applies to your will. The days you feel the most resistance are the days you're secretly being forged. The mistake most people make is thinking willpower is supposed to feel easy, that if it's hard, it means you're failing. But that's the illusion. The struggle is the signal that your will is being tested, refined, and expanded. Every craving you resist, every distraction you silence, every early morning you choose over extra sleep, those are the unseen reps that build the strongest version of you. Just like muscles fatigue, willpower does too, which is why habits matter so much. Systems, routines, and structure act like scaffolding that holds you up when your energy runs low. You don't rely on fleeting motivation. You rely on rhythm. You make discipline automatic so that on the days your mind wavers, your system keeps you steady. That's the real secret. Willpower doesn't replace structure. It's born from it. You can't fight chaos with emotion. You fight it with design. And over time, what used to take force becomes flow. You no longer wrestle yourself into action. Action becomes your identity. The small things that once drained you now fuel you. You find strength in consistency, pride in perseverance, and peace in knowing that you no longer depend on feeling ready. You've built something deeper, a will that moves when it's supposed to, no matter the mood, no matter the moment, because you're not lazy, you're untrained, and that can change. Every disciplined choice is one more rep for your willpower. Every moment you rise above excuses, you're proving that strength isn't something you find, it's something you forge. Train your will and your will can move worlds. You were never meant to stay stuck in hesitation, frozen by doubt or delayed by the comfort of waiting for the right moment. You were meant to move, to act, to step into the life that's waiting for you beyond the resistance. Every day you delay is a day you surrender to the small voice inside that whispers excuses, that convinces you that comfort is safety. But the truth is, safety never builds greatness. Growth never waits for readiness. The moment you force yourself forward, something shifts. Your life begins to change. Suddenly, what once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. The person who procrastinated, who wavered, who questioned every step, begins to lead themselves with clarity, conviction, and momentum. You realize that power doesn't come from feeling motivated. It comes from choosing action anyway. So here's the challenge. For the next 7 days, don't wait to feel ready. Move anyway. Every single day, pick one hard thing, one task you've been avoiding, one step toward your dream, one moment that scares you, and do it without hesitation. Show yourself that your commitment is stronger than your doubt, that your promise to yourself is louder than the excuses of your mind. In these 7 days, you'll start to see the truth. Hesitation loses its power the moment you refuse to obey it. Confidence grows in the moments you choose, courage over comfort, consistency over indecision, and action over delay. And when you do this, when you force yourself again and again, something extraordinary happens. You stop being controlled by your moods, your doubts, your fleeting feelings of resistance. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "What will I do anyway?" Because that is the power of forcing yourself. You are guided not by what you feel, but by the mission you've chosen. And in that guidance, in that deliberate movement forward, you discover the unstoppable version of yourself. The one who doesn't wait for permission from motivation. The one who creates momentum from discipline. The one who achieves anything they set their mind to.